My cousin was the youngest of three boys, and I imagine as the youngest, he was often seen as annoying. When he would ask questions, I imagine his brothers were frustrated and told him to stop asking questions and being so stupid. I was younger than my cousin, and so when I'd spend time with him, I would ask him questions, and he was conditioned to view questions and curiosity as annoying and stupid, and so he would tell me to stop asking questions and stop being so stupid. My sister, who is younger than me, would then ask me questions, and I would respond the same way. And the cycle just kept repeating. Now I see my youngest ask my oldest questions or even ask us questions in his presence, and my son treats her like the dumbest person alive at times. And yes, some of this is being an older sibling who just has the entire weight of this tough, cruel world on his shoulders, mixed in with fit-in culture and way too many hormones. But aren't we all a little conditioned to not be curious? Curiosity, after all, killed that darn cat we keep hearing about. Yet I think the opposite is true. I think we all need to be more curious, because isn't the opposite of curious just being stuck in our beliefs and our opinions and our judgments? This week we are continuing our 2-week series on being human, and my topic today is humans are made to love, and to me, love looks like curiosity. When I first started dating my wife, oh boy, was I curious. I wanted to know what made her tick. I wanted to know about her past, how she grew up, what she did as a kid and a teen and in college. I wanted to know what she hoped for the future. I wanted to know how she raised her kids and what she believed. I was curious about how she danced and how she kissed. A+, I might add. I was curious about her beliefs and her morals and her dreams. I was curious about her. And I continue to be amazed at the things I find out about her years later. See, curiosity is something we do when we love someone or something. Have you ever thought about what you would do if you knew you had 1 year left to live? Where would you go? What would you see? How would you act? What would you do? Well, we have this book that's filled with poems and ideologies and stories and history. We have a story of a man who knew he had not a year to live, but a day. In fact, the very last hour of Jesus' life before he was arrested, he goes to a garden and he prays. He prays in John chapter 17, and this is what it says. My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one. I in them as you are in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them as you have loved me. Or in the Message translation, it says, I'm praying not only for them, but also for those who will believe in me because of them and their witness about me. The goal is for all of them to become one heart and mind, just as you, Father, are in me and I in you, so that they might be one heart and mind with us. Then the world might believe that you, in fact, sent me. The same glory you gave me, I gave them, so they'll be as unified and together as we are, I in them and you in me. Then they'll be mature in this oneness and give the godless world evidence that you have sent me and loved them in the same way you have loved me. Here, if I had an hour to live, I would want to be with my wife and kids, maybe some friends. I'd maybe be in the mountains or on the beach. I'd at least want a gallon of queso and chips. That's what I would want. But Jesus, he prays, and he prays for what? He prays for unity. In the most serious moment of all time, the most significant prayer of all time, he doesn't pray for us to be prosperous or for us to win at life or even have an easy life. Jesus prays that we would be one. Why would he choose that? Because he knows that the biggest threat to us is division. He knows that if his kids fight and become divided, we will not fulfill God's plan, God's mission, God's call for you and for me. So he prays that we don't get distracted and divided. No, Jesus prays that we would be one. Albert Tate said in a sermon that if unity is Jesus' biggest prayer, then disunity, division, is Satan's greatest ploy. Think about it. If Jesus' number one prayer was for us to be one, doesn't that mean that division would be fear, hate, anxiety, sin's biggest victory? Wow. And today, it doesn't matter what it is, we have given it the power to divide us. Democrat, Republican, white, people of color, rich, poor, white bread, or wheat bread. Like, come on! Friends, there is a difference between disagreement and division. There's a difference between disagreement and hate. You can be offended and still live. We've gotten to such a place that if we disagree with someone or are offended, we leave, we quit, we pack up and just get out. Marriages, churches, families, lifelong friendships. Bye, Felicia. Albert Tate says this: the worst thing that can happen to you is not that you be offended. Biblically, the worst thing that can happen to you is you not love those well who have offended you. The worst thing that can happen to you is not being offended, but according to what God calls us to love. The worst thing that can happen to us is not love well those who have offended us. Wow, that's powerful. And we know this to be true in our lives. If you have children and they fight, one of the first things that happens is we get mad, get off each other. But when we look back at it, aren't we just hurt that our children are fighting? Can you imagine the depth of the sadness that God has when we are fighting, when God's children are fighting, because one of God's children doesn't like someone or something, they fight, they cut ties and only spend time with the people that agree with them, when they fight over God and theology and doctrine, when they murder people because they don't act, look, vote, or whatever like them. It breaks my heart every day to look at how we treat one another. We are called to love. At the last conference I was at with the team, I heard the same story twice from two different speakers, and I don't find that coincidence. In biblical times, Rome had conquered the Jews. God's people, the Israelites, lived in Roman governance. That's like if Canada came down and conquered us. Can you imagine our love for them, or disdain, really? They tell us what we can and cannot do. They kill our family and our friends all for a Caesar. This is just a start of how the Jews felt about Rome. And here Jesus says this in Matthew 5. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. This is based on a law that if you were 12 or older and a Roman soldier asked you to carry his pack, you would have to follow them on their horse with their pack for 1 mile. And these packs were heavy. They were really heavy. They're on their horses and you are walking, carrying their junk for 1 mile. And then when you're done, you have to walk back. And Jesus says, when you get to the end of this mile, look at that soldier and say, "Dear sir, it would be my honor to carry your pack for another mile." Can you imagine the outrage? But on the other side, can you imagine what it would be like for that Roman guard? What? Reggie Joyner said this: the first mile was out of obligation. The second mile was an opportunity for relationship. What if we listened for an extra mile? People that don't look like us, talk like us, dress like us, vote like us, live like us. When people are saying things like white privilege and Black Lives Matter and make America great again, take guns away, abortion, whatever the hot topics are, what if we just listened for an extra mile? What if we would step inside someone else's story for an extra mile, to go to different communities, the suburbs, the trailer courts, the west side of the tracks, wherever it is, and sit in their story, sit in their experience? What if we just practiced an extra mile and think for a minute not what it means for us to do that, but what it would mean for the person we do it for? There was a question in the early church: how will you separate yourselves from the others? How will we know that you are Christ followers? God said, oh, you'll know. Not by our prosperity or by our stance on things or our skin color or our political party. No, they will know us by our love, by how we love, by how we are curious to get to know others and their experience and their stories, by how we walk that extra mile, by how we love, because humans are made to love. Thank you so much for joining us today. God bless.